Alright guys, fourth video on additional trig questions. So with these guys I've given you two sides, or I've given you a side and angle, and you have to find either the angle and the other side or the other two sides. So let's see. For this guy, for the first one, we have a hypotenuse of 10. We've got an adjacent of 7. And we're looking for the opposite, and we're looking for the angle. Okay, so this first one, we have two sides of the triangle. We're trying to find the third side. So let's do Pythagoras in order to find that value there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do the square root, do double brackets, 10 squared, because we're taking the larger area, minus the smaller area, close brackets, and we find that to be 7.141. Beauty. Okay, looking at the angle here, this and this are almost identical, so we know already that the angle is going to be just a shy above 45 degrees. Okay, at that point we have all three sides. We can use whichever ratio we want. Let's try using sine first. Okay, so for sine, we're looking for the angle, so we'll do the inverse sine. Okay, the inverse sine, and sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, so the opposite is 7.1441. Okay, divided by our hypotenuse of 10, close brackets. There we go, 45.569. So we'll do 45.57. So before you punch anything into the calculator, take a look at the values that are there and see if you can guess what the answer is going to be. Alright, so we found everything for this first triangle. Let's keep rocking along with the second one. Second one has a hypotenuse of 47, and we've got an opposite of 23, and we need to find the angle. The angle is between here and here, between the adjacent and the hypotenuse, always. And we need to find the adjacent. So let's do Pythagoras first. We have two sides of the triangle. We're trying to find the third. So we'll do the square root of, let's see, 47 squared minus the 23 squared. Close brackets. And that gives us 40.987. Excellent. Okay, now we need to find the angle. Let's see. Let's use our given values here of 23 and 47 again. So the opposite and the hypotenuse, we would be using sine again. So in order to find that angle, we'll do the inverse sine. And the sine is the opposite. The opposite is 23 divided by the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is 47. That gives us 29.29. So 29.298. I guess we could say 29.30 then. Beautiful. Now we found everything for that triangle. Hopefully you're rocking along here and getting the same values as we are. Make sure that your calculator is in degrees. Don't worry if it's a little bit off. Different calculators will give you different values. Now, the adjacent for the next guy is 5.42. Okay, the opposite is 3.3. So we're going to use those two values in order to find our hypotenuse first. So let's do the square root. And we're going to do the addition of 5.42 squared. Okay, plus the 3.3. We'll do a close bracket. Okay, you'll notice that I'm doing the square on the outside of the brackets there. So 5.42, 3.3. Beauty, we're looking for a value that's greater than 5.42. And we got an answer of 6.345 The next one is a phi, so we'll do 6.346. Excellent. Okay, so now we have the hypotenuse. We have every side's dimension for that triangle. Now we're going to find the angle. Well, given values are the opposite and the adjacent, so let's do tan now, guys. If we look at tan with these guys, tan is the opposite over the adjacent. And so if we do second function tan, and we're looking for opposite 3.3, divided by the adjacent of 5.42, close brackets, that gives us an angle of 31.335. So we'll go 31.34. Excellent. Okay, same recipe, just keep going through. Lots of repetition here, just to hammer in these ratios for you. Okay, next one, we don't have the hypotenuse, we have an adjacent of 13.5. Opposite of 21.6 there, and we're looking for the angle and the hypotenuse. All right, okay, let's do the addition of these two areas in order to find the hypotenuse. So let's see, we've got the square root of 13.5 squared plus 21.6 close brackets, and that gives us 25.47. Looks good. 25.471. 472, I guess, eh? Beauty. Okay, our values with the adjacent and the opposite will provide us with the angle. So using the opposite and adjacent, again, we'll use the tan, right? Tan function is the opposite over the adjacent. The opposite is 21.6 divided by 13.5, close brackets, and this angle is 57.994. Beautiful. We'll just keep this as 57.99 because that value of 4 is less than 5. 57.99. Sweet. Okay, 3 more, guys. Okay, next one. What do we got? We got the opposite value of 15. So these guys just hammer in the adjacent and the opposite. Usually if you're screwed up, you're mixing up your opposite and your adjacent on these questions. So opposite of 15, shallow angle of 27 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to find the adjacent. Okay, well, if we're looking for the adjacent and we know the opposite and we know the angle, we could use tan in order to find that guy, right? So in that case, the adjacent, let's bring up the calculator here. Okay, so for this guy, we've got the opposite of 15, and we're looking for the adjacent, so opposite divided by tan of the angle. The opposite is 15 divided by tan of the angle is 27. Carefully you're not getting dyslexic and looking at, like me, at the other questions there. And so the adjacent ends up being 29.439. So we'll say 29.44. Hang on for a minute, guys. It's dying here. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Okay, so we had 29.44 for that value. Sometimes if I have too many things open, then this crashes. I usually use OneNote, but I've been having to go back to Word. But Word crashes every once in a while when I'm drawing on it. All right, let's see. That gives us an adjacent of 29.44. Holy, not a good day. Hang on. Okay, so now we've got those values, 29.4, 15 for the opposite, 27 for the angle. And now we're looking for the hypotenuse. Okay, so what can we use? We've got the angle, we've got the opposite, and we're looking for the hypotenuse. Well, it looks like sine has all of those guys there. So in order to find the hypotenuse, it'll be the opposite divided by the sine of the angle. So opposite is 15 divided by the sine of 27. That gives us 33.04. Excellent. Okay, 2 more now, guys. Let's get rid of these values here. Okay, what do we got? We have the hypotenuse. I've written in there degrees for some reason. I must have on cruise control. So let's see if this is going to work out. That makes me nervous if I have degrees there. 34.7. The adjacent is 33. And we're looking for the opposite. And we're looking for the angle there. Okay, so let's find the angle first. Let's see. The adjacent and the hypotenuse are right here in cos. So in order to find the angle, it would be the inverse cos of the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So we said inverse cos of the adjacent, 29.44. Oh, sorry. Careful. Cos of 33 over 34.7. Okay, that gives us an angle of 18 degrees. Beauty. Okay, so now we've got the angle there now. And let's see, we're looking for the opposite. The opposite now, well, we've got 2 sides of the triangle. Why are we using anything else? Let's use Pythagoras. Okay, so let's see, we'll do the hypotenuse. So we'll do the square root of 34.7 squared. And then we're going to take away the 33, the smaller area. Close brackets. And that gives us 10.728. So the 8 is above 5, so we'll do 10.73. Excellent. Okay, so that means that this guy is 10.73, and this is a shallow angle of 18 degrees, because this is small compared to this guy here. Right on. Okay, guys. Last one here. Okay, what do we got? Hypotenuse of 70, and we've got an angle of 45 degrees. Beauty. Well, as soon as we find... Oh, come on, buddy. Okay, hopefully Windows will hold out for me for just a few more seconds here. Okay, so we've got an angle of 45 degrees, and we know now that the adjacent and the opposite are going to be equal there. So as soon as we find one, we'll know the other one. So let's see, for the opposite here, we're going to use sine. So let's see, because we have the hypotenuse here, right? So let's bring up this calculator here. So the opposite is going to be equal to sine of the angle times the hypotenuse. So the angle is 45 degrees. So we'll do sine of 45, which we know is 0.707. We'll multiply that by our hypotenuse of 70, and that gives us 49.497, so we'll say 49.50. And with confidence, we can say that both of these guys are identical. Okay, for the adjacent, we could use the cos of the angle times the hypotenuse. So just to show you that that's going to work out as well, let's do the cos of 45, and then we're going to multiply that by our hypotenuse. And that is also equal to 49.497 or 49.50. You can see that on 45-degree triangles, these guys, the adjacent and the opposite are exactly the same. All right, guys. Excellent. I'm getting dizzy with all these trig questions. So if you're like me, take a break for a bit and then come back